Joining me live for more on this, former Pentagon advisor Jason Israel, who's with the US Navy Reserve now as well. Thanks for your time. How close do you think we are to more conflict? And what do we read into the timing of this? Is this a testing of Joe Biden?
Thanks for having me, Tom. And as always, thanks for mentioning my Navy Reserve affiliation. As a reminder, as I'm not on duty, these views are my own. Things are ratcheting up there pretty quickly, and we have a pretty recent data point from 2014 of Russia building up troops before it annexed Crimea. So you could say that it's following a similar pattern. Now, one thing to point out is that, as it was mentioned, that international community has been asking Putin to back off the military presence on the border. But let's remember that Russia also supports Russian separatists within Ukraine covertly. So any time that President Putin would like for there to be more conflict with Ukraine, they could sort of increase the amount of support to Russian separatists, causing the Ukraine to have a military response, causing Russia to build up the military border. So this could happen easily on a timeline at the willingness of President Putin, and very possibly could be associated with President Biden's relatively recent inauguration.
All right, well, we'll keep an eye on those numbers. Let's hope it doesn't escalate, but that's the fear. Another test for Joe Biden, because he wants to try to get this nuclear deal redone with Iran and these nuclear centrifuges that are being developed. The claim from Iran is these are for civilian purposes. What's the truth here?
Well, right now, everything that could be used for civilian purposes, like a centrifuge, could also be used for military purposes if they were allowed to enrich uranium to above the 90% level. The JCPOA, the Iranian nuclear deal, allows it to be more or less around 4% for civilian use. It's just a matter of time, whether it's months or weeks, of how long it would take for centrifuges to create military-grade uranium. So that's what the whole question is here. The timing is, though, is that Iran has clearly put these new advanced centrifuges online as talks on the renewal of the Iran nuclear deal are coming in. This does put pressure on Biden to make further concessions than the original deal, which would make it very difficult for him to go back into. At the same time, Israel has had a pretty standard and constant push against this deal, thinking that Iran should be handled militarily. You might have seen just in the last 24 hours that was blamed for what was thought to be a cyber attack on one of these centrifuge facilities. As far as we know, it's just a blackout, but the timing of that would be very interesting as well. So as they're at the diplomatic table, the pressure is on to make it very difficult for them to go back into the original deal with these developments.
Yeah, so makes it tough, as you said, for Joe Biden to go back to the US because he's got, two different sides to please, if you like. Just finally, this meeting between Russia and India, interesting because it comes on the back of that Quad meeting, and this is partly Russia trying to push back against too much Indian cooperation, if you like.
Right. When we look at the Quad membership, which we've talked about quite a bit over the last couple months, the US, Japan, Australia, and India, it's also important for us to look at when each of those countries are meeting with foreign powers. It's not just when those four countries meet, because they're going to receive pressure, as they have in the past, to move backward from this agreement. And clearly, this was Russia and India trying to build ties on other issues, and the Russian foreign minister stating that a military alliance such as the Quad would be counterproductive, trying to just set a view that any Russia-India ties increased ties might actually be contingent upon India keeping the Quad at more or less a diplomatic arrangement rather than a military arrangement. So we'll continue to see pressure on each individual country in the Quad, including Australia, as we've seen from China. And whether the Quad can move forward will depend on whether it can withstand these sort of bilateral attacks on each of its members.
Jason Israel, I'm sure they'll keep up and we'll keep following it. Thank you.